Secretary Telecom, R. Chandrasekharji, Member Services, Mishraji, Member Finance, Sadhna Dikshitji, CMDBS, NL Upadhyaya Sahab, members of the Telecom Commission, senior officials of the ministry, and of course, young probationers gathered in this room. First of all, this is also a first. As was mentioned, this is the first time that the minister is with young professionals who are entering a new phase of their life. And I consider it a great privilege to be with you today, to share some of my thoughts with you. And I always feel far more comfortable with young people than with old people. I have to share that with you as well. You young people are starting a new life, a new adventure. Some of you are from the brightest, the best institutions of this country. I noticed that some of you have come from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, some of you are from IIT, some of you from NIT, some of you from very prestigious private engineering institutions. So the creme de la creme is of the community is in this hall today. Obviously, as you sit here today, you must be wondering, what is in it for me? What is my future? And each of you would be asking that question to yourself. It's difficult to answer. And that answer you will not find with any amount of certainty. It's what's going to happen 10 years from now, what's going to happen 20 years from now, where you will be. Because you are on a career path which is somewhat different from the private sector. So the options are different. And as you go along, your vision will also be different. Because you will work in a completely different environment. When the child goes to school, he doesn't know what he's getting into. Suddenly he finds himself that he has to perforce, he has to learn, his activities are a bit regulated. And then he starts passing examinations. And when he reaches here and you decide that you will go into government service, you are opting for a world which is a little more regulated than outside in the marketplace. You're opting for a more regulated environment. Because obviously a government environment is subject to certain rules, subject to certain stipulations. There is less freedom in terms of playing the joints that people in the private sector have. But of course, it has other advantages. You have much greater security, and you have a much larger organization to function under. And in a sense, it will give you different options. For example, out in the private world, if the boss doesn't like you, he can dismiss you. Here in government service, that doesn't happen. Out in the private world, you have much more freedom to take the business forward, to take your own career forward. You are here subject to seniority, subject to rules, subject to regulations. It's seldom that you can jump the queue, as many sort of entrepreneurs would like to do in the private sector. You can sort of be as close to the boss as you want in government service, but the boss keeps on changing. And so if you're very close to one boss, the other boss who is going to come along may not like it very much. You have to be a little more careful. Unlike in the private sector, if you go along with the boss and he's there for some time, there's no problem at all. You can reach whatever heights you want to reach. It's a different environment. But it's a great environment. When I was in the private sector and I was practicing law in the Supreme Court of India, I had all the freedom in the world to do what I wanted to do. If I didn't want to work on a given day, I didn't work. I could take my holidays whenever I wanted to, and then I came into public service. Now my world is regulated too. I can't take holidays, I have to seek the permission of the Prime Minister whenever I want to go out. I can't take these decisions on my own. Most of the time, I'm enlightened by my secretary, so I find myself at the receiving end. It's a more regulated world. It's a different world altogether. I have to obey certain rules and regulations. So all that comes with the job. And you now must acclimatize yourself that you will be living in a more regulated environment. But I'm much happier in public service than I was as a lawyer. Despite all this. Why am I happy? Because I can actually decide on the fate of generations in this country. I can take them along a highway and a path that I think is good for the future of India in the context of our national interests. I can do things on a scale that the private sector can never do. I'm not involved in a company with a turnover about, 50 crores or 5 crores. We're dealing with thousands of people. In a sense, you are part of the future of India much more than the private sector is. In a sense, you are wedded to the future of India much more than the private sector. In a sense, you will be leading India into the 21st century, much less than others. Each of the private sector will have a role to play in the silos in which they live and they operate. But you are the largest player in the market. And I think that you need to understand that as you move along. In fact, your decisions have huge impacts on millions of people. And therefore, in the private sector, while you look for profit to increase the turnover of the company, in the public sector you don't look for profit. You look for the maximum beneficial impact, the MBI, on the people of India. How is it that you can contribute to that impact? If we have a policy of, say, mobile number portability, and in the last year or so 50 million people have actually taken advantage of that portability, you have impacted 50 million people. No single enterprise can do that. If you enunciate a policy of free roaming, you will impact millions of people. If you are able to bring mobiles to the citizenry of this country from a mere 76 million to 960 million, through policies that you enunciate, you are impacting not just a generation, you are impacting a certain percentage of humanity. And that's an enormous opportunity. It's not, you may be just one part of this labyrinth, of this colossus, the state. You are a very significant part, and each of you has to play a very important role as you move forward. But your focus ultimately has to be that man who you do not know, who you do not recognize, but who will benefit by what you do. Ordinary man who has to be the focus of your attention. Therefore, anything that you do in your office as you move along, you must think of how you can take and improve the life of that man. That's the journey that you are going to take on as you move forward. It's a very exciting journey. People talk about public service, and Chandrasekharji mentioned about you must have read the newspaper about the telecom sector. Quite frankly, I've stopped reading the newspaper. Because the newspapers again ultimately give you a one-side version of what the telecom sector is all about. Ultimately, what is an article in a newspaper? An opinion. And most opinions nowadays are uninformed. And therefore, Unlike the public sector where you have to take informed opinions. A newspaper article will put out an uninformed opinion to make sure that they sell more copies. You don't have to sell any copies. Your decisions have to be informed decisions. When you take the interest of all stakeholders into account and say, this is what India needs to do. Your footprint will be left behind. Your decisions on files will be the footprints of history, because you would have participated in those enormous processes of decision making. And there will be a time in your life when you will ask yourself, look, had I been in the private sector, I would have earned much more money. But remember this, in your life, the only thing that you can go away with is your reputation, which is your only asset. There is no other asset with which you can move on at the end of your journey. There is no other asset. Your bank balance you will leave behind. All your possessions and belongings you will leave behind. The only thing that you will take with you is your reputation. That's the only asset that will be left behind. Nobody can touch that. So money has a very, very limited role to play. If I were to go back to the profession today, I could earn money without even working, just to buy a telephone conversation. But I don't mind that, because the value of the opportunity to contribute cannot be measured in terms. That's the opportunity you have. Now, as you move along, never think in those terms, had I been in the private sector. I really have never thought about the fact, had I been in private practice. No, I'm not in private practice, so there's no point in thinking about it. I've taken a decision, I'm here, I must enjoy what I do, and I must never think back. There's no point thinking. So, be passionate about what you do. And as the Secretary said, the telecom sector is in the midst of a monumental change. And we don't know where technology is going to go 5 years from now, 10 years from now. We don't know what the commercial models of this sector are going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Fact of the matter is, if I look at India, I ask myself the question, which is the best way to reach 1.2 billion people? I can't reach them by road. I can't touch upon 1.2 billion people by road. I can't reach them personally. There's no way I can reach them personally. So how can I reach them? And the only way I can reach them is through the infrastructure of the telecom sector. That's the only way I can reach 1.2 billion people. This tells you how important this sector is to the 1.2 billion people that we have to reach. We have to ultimately provide them with what? With information. And how do we provide that information? We need to provide them instant information. And in all sectors. A fisherman, when he goes to fish in the ocean or the sea, he needs information. He needs to know as to when there is enough chlorophyll in the water for him to go and fish. We need to give him that information. He needs to know when he can sell this product in the market. We have to give him that information. Or her that information. You need to give information to people living around the coastal areas in the eastern coast of India to tell them that the tsunami is about to reach you. And you have to give that information in time so that they can save themselves. Or that a particular storm or a particular typhoon is reaching. You have to give information to the agriculturalist. Tell him as this is the time when you need to sow. The rains are late. Delay your sowing. This is the time you need to harvest. Your soil doesn't have enough moisture. You need to give it a little more water. Tell the child in school, look, I have a lesson for you that I can send you to the net. That you can empower yourself. To the teacher, that you can be empowered by getting access to knowledge. To the old man living in the rural area, that you don't have to come to the hospital. You can, by connecting with you, through the ICT revolution, we can find out what ailments you have. And we can also tell you what time you should take your medicine. I can go on and on and on and on. This is the power of information. You are, in a sense, the young probationers here are going to create the architecture of that power of information to serve those you have not seen and you have not heard of, but those who are waiting to be empowered. That's the journey that you've taken on. For me, it's a delight to share these thoughts with you, because in a sense I too am in that journey. I'm also a student. I may be functioning as a minister in the government of India, but I'm as much a student as you are. Because I do need to learn and to be empowered. So we are all here together at the cusp of a beginning which will take this country forward, and you at the cusp of a new journey. You must embrace with passion, with enthusiasm, with commitment, and with joy. Nothing happens in life without enjoying what. The day you stop enjoying what you do, you should leave joy. Because at the heart of a successful enterprise is to find joy. Without that, there is no pleasure. So with these words, all the best to you, and I'm sure that your career will bring you laurels that each of you deserve.